the current events for the day. This is our ICAC Tribune, a Leadership Excellence editorial. Thank you guys for coming out to the MS4 class. Today's topics in which we'll be covering will be transgender in the military and PTSD. Kim will give you guys an overview of the transgender in the military.
So, hello, meet Sergeant Shane Ortega. He's the first openly transgender military member, active duty soldier. He's actually a helicopter crew at 25th ID. He's in 26 Squadron right now. He served 3 combat tours, 2 as a female and 1 as a male. But as of right now, he faces discharge due to Pentagon rules. Next slide, please. So, Sergeant Ortega was born a female, but wants to continue to serve the rest of his career as a man. That would require significant changes in the Pentagon rules, which require that transgender troops be discharged from military service. So last summer, as a result of medical tests revealing that he had high testosterone levels, for a female, you'll be, if you have the levels are too high, you cannot pass the physical exam. As you know, the aviation has very stringent rules with the medical portion of the flight status. So he's been barred from flying, and he's now doing administrative work. So at this time, he still continues to face the risk of being discharged from the Army. As of right now, there's been an intervention with an outside group, legal group, protecting him from getting discharged right away. So it's still in the works of him facing discharge. Next, please. So in the Army's eyes, Sergeant Ortega is still a female. So his government IDs, such as his driver's license and social security card, says that he's a male. But in the Army, under DEERS and everything, and TRICARE, he's still a female. So during formal events, during the official occasions, he still has to wear the female Class A's. There's also about 15,500 transgender people in the military right now, and the Pentagon will not disclose how many that have been discharged so far. But according to the Palm Center, who studies these issues, about 12 people have been discharged the past 6 months for being they're transgender. So here he is shaving. So he has a lot of testosterone levels. As of now, he no longer menstruates, and he also has bulked up a lot because of this. You can tell he's training for a competition right now, figure competition as a male. So he's shaving, and he no longer has the body parts. Well, he no longer has breasts, but he still hasn't gone through a sex change yet. But he's considered a male right now in his government IDs. Next, please. So I thought this was important because this is changing times. The Army's also adaptive and also diversity. We have to realize that this is going on right now. That some people do not fit into the binary definition of male or female. Some people identify themselves as a male, though biologically they're female. And as of right now, President Obama remains silent. Though he was vocal regarding the gay service members serving, he's still silent about this transgender issue. Transgender rights advocates think that the acceptance as the next step in creating a more inclusive military is important. And as of right now, before, openly gay soldiers were banned from the military, as you guys know. And only in 2011 was the ban lifted. So as of right now, being transgender is classified as a mental disorder, and that makes someone unfit to serve. Sergeant Ortega, all he wants to do is serve his country, but not hide his true self. Because there are, among the service members, they are transgender. Perhaps they feel like a male, they're biologically male, but they feel like they're female, but they're hiding their true self. This is important because if they start accepting transgender soldiers, they may say that they're female, but they feel like they're male. And as you know, some positions are not open to female. If they're biologically female, they cannot be in the combat arms jobs like infantry yet. So that's kind of an issue right now. So next slide, please. So he says, administratively, he says I shouldn't exist, but he does, and that's still a problem. So from looking at him, does he look like a male or female?
That's not just hormones right there.
Yeah.
But he hasn't had a sex change yet, so as of right now, biologically, he's still a female.
That's really scary.
But he's local. I mean, he's at 25th ID, so he's right here right now. So I think I thought this was important because as leaders, one day you might have to deal with this.
Know your flock.
And you're gonna deal with this where you might have to medically discharge them. So when they get discharged, it's not an admin discharge, it's a medical discharge because they have a mental disorder. So you guys might have
That's
to
how
deal with
you're
that.
saying that's how the Army looks at it as a mental disorder?
Army looks at it as mental disorder, and that's how they'll be discharged medically. It's a gender dysmorphia. But as you know, like they're among us, and one of these days, one of your soldiers might come to you and say, I feel like I am not, I don't fit into the binary terms of male or female. I think I'm in the middle. So we have to be tolerant, we have to know what's going on and know our flock from the book we read. So I think this is important that you guys might be dealing with this. And in the future, as you know, like the soldiers serving, if they're gay, like that ban has been lifted. So in the future, transgender soldiers might be among us serving. So that's what's going on right now.
Moving on to PTSD. What is PTSD? PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder, which may occur if you experience intense stress from a traumatic or life-threatening event such as combat exposure, terrorist attack, sexual accident, natural disaster. The story in which I'm going to tell you is last month, I had a project which was due, and it was an oral history project, and I chose to do mine on the Vietnam War. I have a family friend who served in the Vietnam War. His name was First Sergeant Helton. Great individual. I've had an opportunity of actually talking with him, and he agreed to do my oral presentation, my review, and we established a VTC so I can talk to him. And beforehand, I sent him the questions, and he was on point with all of the questions, and we were good to go. During this VTC, I struck a nerve. Initially, the opening questions: when did you serve? Were you enlisted? Or, were you pulled in? And everything was fine, but then I asked him on one specific date and time, what was he doing? And at that moment in time, he caught a flashback, and he sat there at this dining room table with the laptop in front of him. And to me, it appeared as if it had froze. And I'm saying, damn, man. Hey, you there? Hey, you there? Hey, hello, can you hear me? And I got no response. The screen didn't move, he didn't flinch. So I reached for my cell phone so that I can call over there and let his wife know or his daughter know that I can't get through, something's happening. And then he went into mode. He pushed back from the table. His hand became his K-pod, his arm became his rifle. And he stood there, fixing his K-pod with his gun in hand. And he's looking back, never saying a word. He's waving to other individuals to come forward. He then goes down into the prone. And I'm watching all of this. And I'm saying to myself, wow, he's going into character. Well, this was no game. This was no joke. This was serious. The question in which I had asked him brought his past back to his present. He had had a flashback. PTSD is it's very serious within the military in itself. It's not about what's wrong with you, it's about what's happened to you. How common is it? 69.3% of the military, no issues. No TBI, no depression, no PTSD. The other 30% has issues. Looking in this class, there's roughly 34 of us, which means 10 of us will experience a post-traumatic stress disorder, a traumatic brain injury, or be clinically diagnosed with depression. Scars by battle, wounded by PTSD, the many faces of a soldier, and the invisible wound. It's a scar that's not seen. It's not something that someone's going to tell you. There are certain questions in which we need to do is ask as leaders to really get to know our soldiers. It's a matter of knowing your flock. It's not enough to just ask, hey, are you okay? Because if you ask me, I'm going to tell you I'm fine. But if you ask me the right question and you dig a little deeper to really get to know me, I'll open up and I'll tell you what's wrong with me. You have to be your brother's keeper. You have to be a battle. How common is it? Now, I thought this would be relatively easy, but 20% out of 100 in Operation Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom, 20% were diagnosed with PTSD. Culminating, we're looking at over 300,000 soldiers between OIF, OEF, the Gulf War, and Vietnam that have been diagnosed with either TBI, depression, or post-traumatic stress disorder. In this picture, the captions, "I've seen some things," and he's stunned. Who is most at risk? I thought this would be a simple task and just kind of break it down by MOSs, but specifically, you can't. Because more than likely, we're soldiers first before our MOS actually comes into existence. So you'll be tasked to do a number of things. Truck drivers, which was predominantly, they experienced the most trauma because of the IEDs. You had cooks who never had an opportunity of cooking downrange because they were a part of route clearance or on convoys, patrols, or even infantrymen on a gun turret. Mechanics often sent out on recovery missions, and all they recovered were bodies. So the things in which you see and the things that you experience while on deployment, it can pull you apart. But it's a matter of us to really know our people to kind of bring them back together. We need to ensure that we get them the proper help, get the proper medical treatment that they need, whether it be through therapy or it be through medication. Symptoms of PTSD, there are relatively 4 symptoms. The first one in the story that I gave you guys earlier was reliving the event, which is formally called as a flashback. You have avoiding the situation that reminds you of the event, and that can be individuals or places or even certain colors, remind individuals of a certain time frame in their past, which makes them relive that entire event all over again. Negative changes in beliefs and feelings. They begin to feel nervous, depressed, shame. They have trouble sleeping. And then you have the feeling of being keyed up, also known as hyperarousal. These are individuals that are jittery. They can't sleep at night. They're restless. And then the treatment for PTSD. Here I have the Veterans Crisis Hotline number. Give that number a call. There are basically 2 treatments out there right now. One being psychotherapy and the other one being medication. Upon the psychotherapy, the commonly one that they're using is CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy. And this can be done in a group setting, a family setting, or on an individual basis. And it gives you that opportunity of telling your story. It's been found out that by you talking about it, minimizes the amount of stress that you wind up putting on your body. And it helps to prevent from reliving that event all over again. Medication, they primarily prescribe you serotonin. It kind of helps you with dealing with it a lot better. And the sources for today's discussion came from USA Today, the Washington Post, and Advocate.com for the transgender, and the sources regarding PTSD. Are there any questions? I hate to bring y'all down, but PTSD is